Everybody from Morocco. This is yours truly speaking to you from a rooftop in hibernation, in isolation, with my good friend from Russia. And today I want to talk about a few things. I was watching David Icke on YouTube, and whilst some of his theories sound very plausible, some of his facts are actually wrong. For example,
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
hi, Salam. Hi, how are you?
It's our neighbors.
Okay, they just come to visit us. Salam. Okay. And some of his facts are wrong, actually. One of the facts he mentions, he says that 5G was rolled out first in Wuhan. And his whole theory is based upon 5G being the cause of this virus, and there's a cult running the world. Yeah, it's possible. But the problem with that theory is that 5G has been rolled out in other cities in China at the same time, like Shanghai, which is about 850 kilometers away from Wuhan, and it hasn't been hit so hard. So I kind of have to question his theory about 5G. And the other thing is, two prominent figures of the British establishment have got the virus, and they have successfully beaten the virus. It's Prince Charles and what's his name, Boris Johnson. Now, well, I believe that since the kids were I believe that a lot of this can be explained in the Holy Scriptures. If you look at the theories of the if you look at the Scriptures and you look at what's the holy prophets have said in the Bible and in the Torah, in the Quran, and what they were saying to us, all the sages and prophets from thousands of years ago, and they actually warned us of this coming. John, when he was sitting on the island of Patmos, had the revelation of the apocalypse, and he talks about the opening of the seven seals. This is something that we have already experienced thousands of years ago. It's called the Passover, when Egypt got hit with 10 plagues, and one of the last plague was a plague of pestilence, which came at night time. And God said to the Hebrew people to paint protection on your doorstep, on the top of your door, and the angel of death will pass over your household. So what it is, basically, we're here in Morocco, and we've been locked down. 6 o'clock is the curfew here. We've had about 800 cases, about 50 deaths. King of Morocco did a very good job. He shut the borders much more earlier than England, by the way, and England has got a lot more higher figures. They were expecting the herd to take immunity by getting the sickness, by going to a measles party. That strategy didn't work, Boris. And what David Icke was also saying was, he's saying that 5G basically toxifies the cells of the lungs, so you can't breathe over 60 megahertz, which is absolute not a total shit nonsense. And I can understand why Ofcom wants to squash this kind of theory being published on the internet, because it can cause chaos, and there are instances already of people burning down these 5G things because they don't want them in the town. The sensible approach, if you look at both sides, the sensible approach is really what the Swiss have done. The Swiss have said, okay, we don't want 5G until we've actually got medical evidence to prove whether or not it's safe or not to actually use. Now, David Icke talks about the digital certificate, about the mark of the beast. It's all written here in the Bible, and I'm going to just read you the scripture quickly. What I want you to do is to understand, basically, is not to panic. And let's look at the facts here. Let's look at the conspiracy theories, because that's freedom of speech. But let's also look at the facts. Let's look at what's happening on the ground, and let's make an informed decision. Hello. Okay, so the first thing we actually need to actually understand is from the prophet Daniel. Daniel said, Daniel 12 verse 4, it says here, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." Now, we all know that running to and fro is basically the internet age. You know, with the jet travel, people traveling. A lot of people in the last 30 years, more travel has happened in the last 30 years than in any time in human history. And Daniel goes on, he talks about knowledge will be increased. And how was knowledge increased? Sorry, these are cheap glasses. Knowledge is increased. And it says, he says, "Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,335 days, but go thy way till the end, for thou shalt rest and stand in the lot at the end of the days." It says, "Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." Now, what he's talking about here, and he talks about the man on the side of the river which is dressed in white, and he's talking about the coming of Christ. Now, the wicked don't understand these things because their mind is thinking like the world mind, and they act like the world mind. That is actually the number of the beast, 666, which is a man. And it says also that he causes a physical mark to be put on the hand or the forehead, but essentially it's not the physical mark that's going to basically kill you or take away your freedoms. The physical mark is just a physical mark. It's just like getting a tattoo. But what actually it will cause you to hand yourself over to mind control in this Orwellian sort of scenario that David Icke paints, is it's not about fear here, because if you're a man of faith, if you're a believer, if you believe in God, then you will know that your hope and your trust comes from the Almighty, and there's nothing to fear. So by peddling these conspiracy theories to sell his books and to foment unrest at this time is not exactly a good thing to do. Of course, people have a lot of questions, and let's face it, Boris Johnson really cocked it up with his idiot sidekick Sir Patrick, who got it completely wrong. He should be kicked up the arse and fired, frankly. But at the same time, I think also, I'd like to debate with Mr. Icke and say to him, listen, you're talking absolute out of your fucking arse. Excuse my language. But you are talking out of your arse, okay? If you think that it was 5G that caused the coronavirus. Now, let's just say his theory is right. Let's just say for 1 minute his theory is right, okay? That it's toxicity in the cells, right? And that people with underlying health conditions suddenly get pounded with these gamma rays from 60 megahertz, and they can't breathe anymore, right? Just imagine that what he's saying is true. Now, why give the elite like Prince Charles and Boris Johnson the virus? Why make them positive? It doesn't make any sense. Now, they say 80% of those who get the virus will have mild symptoms and they will carry on as normal. What's going to happen with this whole point, with this whole sort of thing that's going to happen around the world, which is predicted in the Bible, is that we're heading towards a cashless society. Everything that is written in the Bible is going to come true. And we've seen the opening of the seals, of the 7 seals. We're probably up to the 4th seal right now. And, you have to kind of weigh what people say, because there's a lot of false prophets around. And you have to weigh on what you know, which is what they call stable data, stable information. Now, as far as Elon Musk is concerned, the man, his brain is on fire, and he lives in a science fiction world. Let's not say that he's a psychopath. Let's just say that he's ambitious, and maybe there is something wrong with Starlink. Maybe there is something wrong with Neuralink. Maybe he's living, this sort of science fiction illusion. But where we stand at the moment, where we stand, people, brothers and sisters around the world, where we stand is not to be afraid. We mustn't be afraid of nothing. We must put our trust in God and believe in God and pray to God, because from God, from the source, from your Creator, whether you believe in God, it doesn't matter, it can make a difference. It says that if you know the truth will set you free. If you have the truth inside your heart, you won't be afraid of nothing. And this virus is just, how can I say, it's a sign, okay, that we are towards the end. This is the end of times, basically. And what we have to do is purify ourselves, purify our hearts, purify our minds, and actually really, seek the face of God, and actually really understand, because conspiracy theories, they have little bits of truth, and but generally it's a lie. And statistics, by the way, they say, Disraeli, the famous British Prime Minister, once said, there's lies, and damn lies, and then he said there's statistics, and then there's statistics. So what it is, basically, statistics can be also a great liar, because the government says we're basing it on data and basing it on medical evidence. Well, we've seen how wrong this medical evidence can be in the case of England, when they should have locked down sooner rather than later. Now, if this is a grand conspiracy run by some strange cult, I don't think so, to be honest. I personally believe that it's the fulfillment of prophecy, that these things have come to a head, that it's a time of really seeking God, seeking inside, looking within, and finding your own truth within, and actually knowing, okay, what is it that I really believe in? Who am I? What am I? Am I going to live in fear? Whether the fear is coming from David Icke, or fear which is coming from the British or the American government? No, I'm not going to live in fear. I'm going to take control of myself. I'm going to be sovereign of myself and say, okay, every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is happy and well. That's all. You just keep singing, keep praising God, keep yourself strong, keep your spirit strong, keep your mind strong, and we will get through this together. Thank you. And tell David Icke to go and see a psychologist.